Louisiana Legends is made possible by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana. This important program series enables us to discover, through the accomplishments of our fellow Louisianians, the unique character of a state so proudly served by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for 65 years.
Mary Alice Fontenot was born in 1910, but the mind is about a 28-year-old. She's still got it all, the humor, the wit. She's, in fact, a very interesting young lady. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to see you, my old friend.
Merci, cher.
Oh, you know how rarely we get called cher anymore? In Baton Rouge, never, you know?
Well, we should teach them.
Yeah, teach them.
It's a nice term.
That'd be a good thing for Coderfield to undertake. Mary Alice, you were born just outside Eunice.
Yes.
In rural Acadia.
Actually, I was born right in the little town. It was a very new little town at that time. I think Eunice is 15 years older than I am.
So when you talk about a pioneer,
yes,
you, Mary Alice, your daddy made his living as a door-to-door salesman.
With sewing machines, Singer sewing machines.
Singer sewing machines. Is that company still in business? I wonder.
Not as with the door-to-door salesperson.
Yeah, no. Then, on your mama's side, though, y'all had some political aristocracy. Your mama was the granddaughter of Benjamin Wiley Pierce, who was Louisiana's lieutenant governor during the years of the Confederacy. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, what you remember about those early days, and you know what did you learn to cook? Everybody could cook. Wonderful.
I did not.
You what?
No, I married very young. Don't ask me how old I was.
Oh my God.
And so I didn't know a thing. I had never even made a cup of coffee. My mother did everything. She had someone living on the place who helped. So.
Was she a good cook?
Wonderful cook.
Wonderful. And you
even
never
though
learned?
She was from North Louisiana.
Oh, they can't cook up there.
But she did cook, and she cooked well.
She learned the Cajun dishes.
Yes.
Yeah. Gumbo, sauce piquant.
Yeah.
A coupillon, huh?
All that.
Oh my God.
All that.
Mary Alice, you were in school, St. Edmund's School in Eunice, and you kind of distinguished yourself, not only as a student, but as a pianist.
Well, this is my daughter, my youngest daughter, who wrote this up for you. And actually, I would rather not say too much about my piano playing, because it wasn't that hot.
Not that great?
It was banging.
Banging.
And in time to come, I was with a little jazz band, 5-piece jazz band, that we played for dances in the area. And did you know the Marxes from Crowley?
Yes.
Well, one of Paul Marx was one of his sons was in there. Paul Marx Jr., in fact. So that was the limit of my piano playing.
As a matter of fact, it's in your biography, and I'm going to expose how old you were when you got married. Is it all right?
No.
Don't do it? I won't do it.
You
Let's
can
say
do it.
she was a very young lady, somewhere between 16 and 14. Is that all right?
That's all right.
Just a clue.
That'll handle it.
You eloped with Sidney Fontenot. What did your parents say? He was a rice miller. What did your folks say when they woke up one day and T-Girl was married?
Well, my mother knew about it. I ended up telling her. But my father was the one that took it very hard, because he was the one that had sort of escorted me around to the... You see, my classmates were older than I, so I felt that I could do what they did.
Of course.
And so, anyway, let's go to something else.
I I've hit a nerve in this charming lady,
Yes,
born in 1910. When you were in Crowley, this is kind of the, but your husband owning a rice mill.
Oh, he didn't own one.
He worked in one?
He worked one.
Yeah.
He was in the clean rice department of the Freeland Mill.
Yeah, sure.
American Rice Mill.
Yes, ma'am. Mary Alice, you had, let's see, 3 children. Mrs. Burton Ziegler of Newelton, then Dale, who is deceased, and Julie, who's Mrs. Micah Landry of Lafayette.
That's the daughter that has she got her PhD in English, and now she's teaching French.
Isn't that interesting, huh? You know, when I was a boy in Lafayette, the kids who talked French were ashamed of it. Now, if you speak French, it puts you at the head of everything because you're bilingual.
When I was at school at St. Edmunds,
yes, ma'am,
I was proud to say that I could not speak French because my mother was North Louisiana.
Of course.
My father was Vermilion Parish and hardly spoke English. So there was no French spoken in my home. But it was not the thing to do at all, to learn French.
Isn't that a loss?
Oh, yes.
What would you give, to... And you're renowned for your stories about Cajun life.
I think I'm trying to make up.
I think you are, too.
To my heritage.
May I say something? You've been real successful at it.
Thank you.
You were active in as a young lady, several Crowley women's clubs. And this is really interesting. You became a popular book review speaker. So literature, even back then, now your kids were of school age, literature kind of entered your life, didn't it?
Yes, it did, through libraries and librarians. This Beta Delphian club that I belong to, sort of a pseudo-culture thing, appointed me to call on the editor of the Crowley Daily Signal and ask if he would print a book review that I would write because we were trying to help establish a parish library to get the police jurors to vote for it.
Lafayette, same thing.
And so that's how I got into it. And then after I did that, well, then my husband was moved to Eunice in the rice business. So that was my hometown to get back over there. And I think, oh, well, I have the Signals printing my book reviews. Maybe I can get the Eunice paper to do the same. So I went and talked to the man, a newcomer there from Oklahoma, who had just bought the paper, along with John Thistlethwaite.
Yes.
And he said,
who I worked for.
Yeah?
In Opelousas.
At the Daily World?
At the Daily World.
Well, I was there for 10 years.
I was there for a year, right after I got out the service.
I remember.
That's the only people, John Thistlethwaite was the only person to give me a job. Obviously, I was without talent or hope or good manners. And he gave me a job, and I loved Opelousas. I still do.
Nice people there.
All pretty good cooks, too.
Yeah.
Now, Mary Alice, this is so interesting. When you moved to Eunice, you became a gardener, and you got interested in all kind of little tiny insects. It's a very interesting thing. Little animals, and children would bring them to you.
Well, also, I had a job teaching kindergarten at the Catholic school there. The kindergarten teacher had married and left town, moved away, and they needed someone on a temporary basis. Well, it lasted 2 years. And I had started off with 32 little children. 20 of them were boys, and all of them were bad. Just little spoiled darlings, and I loved them all.
You must have kept them entertained beyond imagination. You're a storyteller.
It was kindergarten, and you couldn't tell them, you couldn't teach them anything.
Yes, ma'am.
At that time, they didn't have kindergartners taught, because then they'd have to repeat it in the first grade. So I was told to keep them entertained. I was just a babysitter.
But the best ever come down the pike now. The Eunice paper, you asked them, could you write book reviews? They said, no, we don't need book reviews. But they hired you as the society editor.
The reason they didn't need book reviews, they didn't have a library in St. Landry. St. Landry was one of the last parishes to get the library system set up. It's still not complete. Only Sunset and Eunice and Opelousas.
That was in my humble life, that was the greatest day in my life, the day I discovered the library, which was not the parish library. We didn't have one in Lafayette. It was run by the Van Cott Ladies Club.
Yes. Mary Nerbes, Pauline Rio.
What a memory. Ain't nothing wrong with your memory, huh?
No, nothing wrong with my memory.
Maris, how long did you stay a society editor?
Until this kindergarten class. Oh, Gus, did you know Louise Olivier?
Yes, ma'am.
What a lady, huh?
Lovely, fine lady.
When she heard that I had this kindergarten, here she comes. Miss Shah, she said, you have to teach these children French. I said, Louise.
How?
I can't do that. I don't know enough. Oh, yes, you do. Teach them a few words, teach them some songs. Their parents are going to be so happy. And she said, I have proof that when you teach a young child a language, that they will retain the ability to pronounce it, which is the big handicap for adults when they learn French language. Well, I did. Channel 10 was just on the air. We presented a 15-minute show with those children, each one saying one line. That's all, in French.
First song I learned in French was Frère Jacques, dormez-vous?
These children ended up by saying La Marseillaise. Allons enfants de la patrie.
That's one of the thrilling songs, you know.
Yeah.
That is their national anthem.
But kindergarten children, I mean, 5-year-olds, the parents were pleased.
There's something in your biography that really fascinated me, many things, but this was something. While you lived in Eunice, you were hired by author Francis Parkinson Keyes to do research on her novel, Blue Camellia. That is fascinating. You know, now these famous women writers, Miss Steele and oh my goodness, I don't know who else, the lady, Margaret Mitchell, who wrote Gone with the Wind. But Francis Parkinson Keyes was a real pioneer in that historic romance.
You know, Marie Nerbes was her very good friend there.
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, one of her books is dedicated to Marie, and one to me.
And one to you.
Yeah.
What kind of lady was Francis Parkinson Keyes?
She was not a pleasant person.
If you want the truth,
she was like grande dame, you know.
Grande dame, of course. Oh.
She could take that role very well. But I liked her.
Did you ever meet Hornet Kane?
Sure.
I met him two or three times.
In fact, the first Clovis Crawfish book has a quote from Hornet Kane.
Now, let's talk about this fabulous literary invention, this character, this Clovis Crawfish. You know, when you think about it, that's the only character of that time that I can think of that the Cajun people have produced. I mean, Clovis Crawfish there's no child anymore who doesn't read all the Clovis Crawfish books. And folks, if you don't, grab them because they're wildly entertaining, they're educational, they'll teach you even a few words of French.
I wish I could hire you as an agent.
I'm for hire. We'll do it today. Mary Alice, tell me now how this Clovis Crawfish began.
All right. These children that I was teaching, preschoolers, one day one of the little fellows, his name was Ike Seal, a Seal implement company there in Eunice.
Yes, ma'am.
His family had that. And so he came to school with a little lizard in his pocket, had a string tied around its body and the other end of the string around his belt loop.
Yes, ma'am.
So he came, he was scaring the little girls with it, making them scream and yell, having more fun. And everything was pandemonium in that room. I thought I'd never get them quiet. Finally, I held the lizard that I had never touched before. I was scared of it too. And just to show them that it was harmless, I said, look, it's so cute, with a little green coat on and a white vest, and it can't hurt you.
A green coat and a white vest. We're in the company of an author, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they talk. Now, go ahead and tell me how you got going on those books.
And so, anyway,
She's
for
written
days,
14. Yeah.
Well, actually 17. There's 2 more coming.
Blame it on your daughter. I got the biography from her. Give her a spanking when the program is through.
That I shall do. So anyway, all the children started bringing things to show. They brought crawfish and worms and June bugs and mosquito hawks. They love to catch mosquito hawks.
Of course.
You know how to catch a mosquito hawk?
No, ma'am.
You creep up behind it. It's sitting on a fence.
Yes.
And you creep up behind it. Its eyes are that way.
Yes.
They do have 1,000 eyes, you know.
No, I did not know that.
And you grab it.
Yeah. By the tail?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't want to tear the wings off.
No, and you don't want to hurt them either.
Hurt.
So you go gently, and then the insect bends itself around and bites you on the finger. But don't let it go. Just hold it gently.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I maintain that in the 17-year history of this program, Louisiana Legends, this is the first and only lesson that you will receive in how to catch a
mosquito hawk, a dragonfly. But here in Louisiana, they are mosquito hawks. Nobody calls them a dragonfly.
Never. All right, so go ahead now. The kids were bringing little animals.
Little insect things and so on to show and tell. And we made up stories about them. Of course, they had the crawfish flying to the moon and doing all kinds of impossible things. Clovis Crawfish and his friends do not do the impossible. Like when poor little Bertil butterfly gets stuck on a thorn tree with her wing pinned down. Well, Clovis can't help her because crawfish can't climb trees.
Yes, ma'am.
So he calls on his new friend, the Texas armadillo, Andrew Armadillo.
How beautiful.
And he can stand up on his hind legs and release the little...
And save.
Yeah.
Your books are so gentle.
Thank you.
Are you a very gentle person all your life?
No, I'm kind of mean sometimes.
You get mean?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't tell by talking to you. And you can't tell by your writing either. I think that's quite lovely. All right, so tell me about how this first... Who did you name Clovis after?
The police chief of Eunice, Louisiana, Mr. Clovis Durio.
What an honor.
But then, these stories ran first in the Advertiser.
Yes, ma'am.
They ran for a year.
The Lafayette Advertiser.
Yeah, I was working there at the time, taking French at USL. So in my spare time, I was working for the Advertiser. In the Women's News Department, you remember Lydia Krause?
Of course.
Well, she was my boss. And one day
Tom Callahan ran it, didn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
But by the time that it was somebody else, who was that?
Squires took it on after.
Mr. Squires.
Yeah, Harry Squires took it on after.
Harry Squires took it over when I was there.
Yes, ma'am.
But I worked under Vince Marino, too.
Who's a wonderful
man.
And still quite active.
Oh,
but a
yes.
lovely, great newspaper man.
Uh-huh.
All right, so you're writing these stories. They're appearing in the Lafayette Advertiser.
But it's Calvin Crawfish. It's not Clovis.
It was not Clovis yet.
Started out in the Advertiser as Calvin, and that was because of Mr. Calvin Blue,
the photographer.
He furnished us with wedding pictures and engagement pictures. He was such a nice gentleman.
He was a lovely man.
I named the and Miss Krause was the one who said, well, I'll have to back up a little ways. You see, the first character that I wrote about that the children had was not a crawfish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was it?
It was a bug, a worm. Willie the Worm.
Willie the Worm.
Mm-hmm.
How did those stories go over in the Advertiser?
Well, that's it. People began to read them and comment on them. And Dr. Mary Dickman came in one day with something from the University of Women, and she said, you should publish those stories. And I was really interested in doing that. So anyway, all of that ended up together. But let's go a little further.
All right. Talk to me about the pleasure and the joy that you get from writing those stories. This is a hard-headed lady. She's not only being interviewed, she's doing the interview. Did you hear her tell me, let's go a little further? She didn't want to leave nothing out. What do you want to talk about?
I forgot. Not really. I'll get back with it, Gus.
So did the books, when y'all begin publishing them, did they take off immediately?
Yeah, pretty well. And of course, the use of French. I had a letter from an editor with a real big-time publisher, who said she liked the stories, but that people generally would not be interested in the use of the French language, the terms and all that I used in there. But I was determined to get that French in. So I lost out there, but see, I got a Louisiana publisher. Cleta did the first one.
The books were originally published, this interested me, in black and white with little simple illustrations.
Yeah.
But now, color and very detailed drawings.
Yes, and I've had, I think, 7 illustrators. I started out by calling the art department at USL.
Yes.
To recommend a student that would do sort of cartoon-type drawings. And there I had it.
And unbelievably, you wrote a biography of someone whom I knew very well from working in Opelousas. Sheriff D.J. Cat Doucet.
That was something.
Was there ever a character like that?
Never. Never will be.
Tell us one story about him.
Well,
that you can tell on the air.
He was famous. When we had an autograph party at Dorothy Dunbar's bookstore there in Opelousas, he was there with me, signing books, and we had the people lined up then, Gus, to get his signature.
To get that? I wish I had one. I would love to have a copy.
His eyes were very bad at the time. He even did some of them upside down and backwards on the back of the book.
He was one of the great political characters of all time. There never was one like him.
So I titled one of the chapters Mr. Malaprop because he always used the English language, abused the English language.
But he was a kind man.
Very kind.
D.J. Cat Doucet was a kind man.
Yeah, you either hated him or loved him. He was that kind of person.
Well, the reason you would hate him, he did what he pleased.
Well, but I was a little worried about my standing in the community, about writing about this fella. And so I ran the information, the interviews that I had with him, I ran them in my column in the Daily World. And I got a call from a friend who was the president of a bank in Ville Platte, and he said, Mary Alice, why are you writing about that old SOB when there's so many wonderful people for you to write about? And I said, well, you know, wonderful people, good people are not much fun.
People don't want to read about them, unfortunately.
That's right.
But you did write about one wonderful person, along with Kathleen Toups.
Yeah.
You wrote a biography of the Diocese of Lafayette's first bishop, Jules B. Jeanmard.
Who was your neighbor?
Who was our neighbor on St. John Street in Lafayette. He was a great man.
He was indeed. It was a lot of pleasure to do that book.
You must have a very questing type mind. I mean, when you read the different things that you've written about Louisiana, the crawfish, of course, about Cat Doucet, and then a saint like Jules B. Jeanmard, your mind must, you have a questing
then
mind.
I did the one about Louisiana, the Louisiana experience.
Yes, ma'am.
My daughter and I, you see, I always get somebody who can really help me. Then I did one with the other daughter, the one that you met this morning.
Yes.
About Tensall Parish. She provided the information, I put it together.
Do you just have such a love of writing?
I enjoy writing.
Is it a love of telling a story or capturing a moment? What is it?
I can't answer that.
No
I just like it.
Yes, ma'am. Will you go on writing?
Yeah.
You still write. How long, I have to ask this as an old writer, how long does it take you to write a Clovis Crawfish book?
There's only 3.5 pages double-spaced typewriting
Yeah.
on that.
So how long did it take you to write?
I would say just long enough to type that manuscript, because you think about it first, and then you go over it. Like the newest one that they have accepted for publication is Clovis Crawfish and Echo Gecko.
A gecko.
Yeah.
Are there any geckos here? No, huh?
Yes, in Lafayette.
I didn't know.
And the children love them. They're such cute
They're
little
such
things.
exotic little creatures.
Yeah.
Mary Alice, the worst words in this kind of an interview are words I have to speak. We're out of time. But on behalf of the thousands of people to whom you've brought nothing but gentle, sweet, and knowing pleasure, in other words, your fellow citizens, God bless you, God keep you in good health, and thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much.
I want a kiss. Handshake won't do. Let me get my old glasses off. Thank you, ma'am.
Louisiana Legends is made possible by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana. This important program series enables us to discover, through the accomplishments of our fellow Louisianians, the unique character of a state so proudly served by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for 65 years.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or send $19.95 to Louisiana Legends, care of LPB, 7733 Perkins Road, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70810. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery.